They feel that they can live by the very word that comes from the mouth of God now.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
Because they can feel that word resonating throughout them. It may be time, if we could, to ask you some questions. We have a list of about 8 questions. Is this a good time to do this?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Greetings. Your television network has been actively broadcasting about the urgency of climate change and its connection to diet choices. Could you share with us some of the recent data?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Gladly. There's so many news every day showing us how urgent the situation is for our planet and the huge role that our diet plays in saving the planet. Since you asked, I would just name a few. I guess many of them you know already, or you could look up on the internet. But since you've been drinking, I did the looking for you. Now, in September 2008, Dr. Rajendra Pachauri, head of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, he's the one who got Nobel Peace Prize, together with Vice President Al Gore and others. He stated that scientists had called to tell him that the emissions from livestock were much higher than previously estimated. You see, before they say it was 18% in the Livestock Long Shadow Report, 2006. But now the emissions from animal farming are actually higher than that. As far as how much higher, they are not still very sure. But Dr. Colin Campbell, the bestseller of nutritional biochemist book, he said that his colleagues at the World Bank found that 50% plus of total greenhouse gas emissions right now are coming from livestock raising. And that is not even the sure percentage yet, you see. And Dr. Campbell revealed that this information is not yet the highest that they have estimated, that they have researched. They think would be more. Okay. And he has revealed this information to us in an interview with the Supreme Master Television. Right now, the climate scientists are telling us more and more that if we reduce livestock industry, we reduce methane. And that is the most immediate way to cool the planet, because CO2 from fossil fuel may take tens of thousands of years, you see, to leave the atmosphere and cool the planet, according to the research. But methane is 23 times more potent, hotter than CO2, and they dissipate average over 10 years or 20 years. So the latest report from IPCC scientist Dr. Kirk Smith in USA said that methane is a much hotter gas than currently reported. Yes, he said that it could be 60 to 100 times hotter than CO2, average over 20 years. So methane goes out in the atmosphere in 9 to 15 years, disappear, compared to up to thousands of years for CO2. So if methane is reduced, the warming will be reduced immediately. You understand the logic, yes? Because CO2 stay longer in the atmosphere, but methane go and disappear quick. So the way we reduce the methane is by reducing animal agriculture. If we ban meat, ban livestock raising, then the methane gas will be cut, for up to date, at least 50%. Can you imagine? It's a very big chunk. And then the planet will be cool immediately. Compared to CO2, it takes 10,000 of years to cool off. Right now, the most problem gas that hit the planet is methane. You see, because it's a lot of them. According to the scientists, it's already 50%. That they say more than 50% even, you see. So if we stop methane, meaning stop the animal rising, then we stop 50%. They say just 50%, at least 50%, you see? And now if we change into a vegetarian organic farming, then that practice alone will cut 40% of CO2 as well out of the atmosphere. So you see, we're gaining. Not only we cut 50% of methane gas, and by doing organic farming, we cut another 40% of CO2 in the atmosphere. See, we gain all the time. And double together, then of course we cool the planet. I'm not talking about a miracle. I'm talking scientifically and logically, and every one of us and every one of you can go onto internet or ask these famous doctors of climate, see what they say. Livestock are the single largest source of methane. Between 35 and 40% estimate presently of methane emission globally, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. But I think it's underestimated. I'm sure of that, though I'm not a scientist. Because if you add things together, it's not only 40%. Now, this is why Dr. Kurt Smith recommended that the government impose extra tax on meat to change habits. This is a good idea, but I feel it's a little bit slow, but it's better than nothing. It's good for two reasons. Number one, the scientists at Carnegie Mellon University found that eliminating all animal products and eating vegan for one day is 7 times more effective than eating locally grown food for reducing emission. Number two, Food Watch Institute said that switching from a conventionally raised standard diet with meat and dairy to an organic vegan diet reduced 94% of the emissions from our diet. So these are the most recent data that I can update to you. And they are telling us clearly that not only it is very urgent right now, but the fastest way to solve it, the quickest, the most effective, is by reducing the emission-intensive meat industry practice. Thank you so much for listening to all that.
Some of the diseases related to meat consumption. Cured meats and fish increase leukemia risk in children. Antibiotic-resistant superbug infections from a strain of Staphylococcus aureus, blue tongue disease, E. coli, salmonella, bird flu, mad cow disease or Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, 90% of the population at risk. Pig's disease or PMWS, listeriosis, shellfish poisoning, preeclampsia, Campylobacter, Clostridium difficile, diseases hidden in healthy appearing livestock. Some of the costs of meat eating. Infertility. Eating just 1 serving of meat per day increases the risk of women's infertility by 32%, with additional meat consumption increasing the risk. Heart disease. Over 17 million lives lost globally each year. Cost of cardiovascular disease is at least $1 trillion a year. Cancer. Over 1 million new colon cancer patients diagnosed each year. More than 600,000 colon cancer-related mortalities annually. In the United States alone, colon cancer treatment costs about $6.5 billion. Millions of people are newly diagnosed with other meat-related cancers every year. Diabetes. 246 million people are affected worldwide. An estimated $174 billion spent each year on treatment in just the United States. Obesity. Worldwide, 1.6 billion adults are overweight, with 400 million more who are obese. Costs $93 billion each year for medical expenses in the United States alone. At least 2.6 million people die annually from problems related to being overweight or obese. Environmental. Use up to 70% of clean water. Pollute most of the water bodies. Deforest the lungs of the earth. Uses up to 43% of the world's cereal. Uses up to 85% of the world's soy. Cause world hunger and wars. 80% cause of global warming. Plus more.